hold on. Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Strength and Conditioning for Strength and Power Sports. Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, we'll be running a live Q&A at end of the webinar. So we have enabled our chat feature. It's on the bottom side of your screen. So if you have any questions, just pop them in there. And if you miss anything, don't worry, we'll still be sending you the recorded versions in YouTube. As usual, we'll be having Dr. Abhimanyu up there again today to give a sum up of the two presentations in Hindi. That's after the second talk. Hence, those who are interested to have a better understanding could hold on for some more time. So today we have with us Dheeraj Shivran, currently working as a strength and conditioning coach for athletics discipline at Inspire Institute of Sport, Bellary. He is a master in sports and exercise from University of Central Lancashire, UK. And also, in addition, he has his Bachelor of Engineering from Delhi Universities in Electronics and Communication. He also worked as a data analyst at Preston North End Football Club Academy. He is a football D license coach from AIFF, and he has his accreditation in level 1 ASCA, and will be completing his ASCA level 2 shortly. To his sports achievement, he was selected for Haryana for Santosh Trophy football camp, represented University futsal team UCLAN. Also, he has represented Young Man Football Club DSA Delhi, played in the DSA League, represented Income Tax Football Club Mumbai, played Super Division for the Western India Football Association, and many other things to his credit. Now let us welcome Dheeraj to present his topic entitled Case Study, Effect of 16 Weeks Olympic Lifting Based Training Cycle on Speed, on an athlete Arpinder Singh. So over to you, Dheeraj.
Thank you, sir. I'll quickly share my screen.
Yeah.
Hi, I hope all of you are able to see the first slide.
Yeah.
Hello everyone, I'm Dheeraj. I hope all of you are well and safe in this time of pandemic. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Saju Joseph and Sports Authority of India to allow me to present this case study in front of all the esteemed sport coaches and practitioners in India. I'll quickly give you a brief about my background. I've keen interest in professional football, and during and after my masters in UK, I worked as a data analyst intern with Preston North End Football Club Academy. This club is basically in second division of UK football, which is still a very good playing level of football compared to what we have in India. And since then, after completing my master's, I've been working here at Inspire Institute of Sport as a strength and conditioning coach. During my time here, I've also had the chance to work with other sports on a very brief basis. The other sports here, we have our judo, wrestling, boxing, and kabaddi. Last year, I also got the chance to shadow the pre-season training of Bengaluru FC here. They were here for, I think, if I'm not wrong, 3 weeks period. For me personally, it was an amazing opportunity as I got to chat with the head coach, Carlos Quadrat, on a daily basis. It was an incredible learning curve for me. since I have keen interest in football, and Carles being one of the top football coaches in India. At this point in time, my current interests involve biomechanics, statistics, chess, and cryptocurrencies, especially Bitcoin. Okay, so today I'm going to present this case study. It is on the effects of 18 weeks of Olympic lifting based training cycle on speed. And the athlete in question here is Arpinder Singh. So first of all, I would like to acknowledge the people without whom this wouldn't have been possible. First of all, the athlete Arpinder himself, Spencer McKay. He's my boss here at IS. He also leads the strength and conditioning department, the institute, the Inspire Institute of Sports for employing me and giving me the chance to work with athletics. Lot of the work that I do here or it is based on the works of Dr. Timothy Sukumar. He's an assistant professor at Carroll University in US. And of course, Dr. Philip Graham Smith. He's the head of biomechanics at Aspire Academy in Qatar. Incidentally, Dr. Philip Graham Smith was also involved with Jonathan Edwards, who holds the world record in triple jump. The world record in triple jump stands at 1829. And Dr. Philip has worked extensively on horizontal jumps. And since then, he's been a leading researcher in the field of biomechanics. And at the last, I would like to thank the head coach of athletics here, Anthony Aish, for allowing me to work with Arpinder. So I'm quickly going to give you a brief overview of the whole presentation. These are all the topics I'll cover today. I'll briefly talk about the sport triple jump. I'll then try to highlight the athlete that is Arpinder Singh. Needs analysis is basically the systemic process of identification of training that should be done or specific needs of an individual, as it is in this case. Testing will highlight the tests that I, of course, in conjunction with the head coach, deem we would need to do pre and post the training cycle to determine whether the objectives of the whole training cycle were met or not. Then I'll quickly talk about the considerations that I had to make as a SNC coach for the training cycle to meet the predefined objectives. I'll also try and explain the rationale behind my personal rationale behind the programming of training cycle and exercise choices that I made. And results would basically highlight the performance changes in tests outlined in testing, pre and post of the training cycle. I will also talk about what I feel could have been done better in hindsight, of course, and future recommendation as to what to do in this particular case, or what should be the continuation to this training. And at the end, I will try to summarize it all. So as many of you might know, in triple jump, the goal is to gain maximal horizontal distance in 3 consecutive submaximal efforts. Those three submaximal efforts are named as the hop, the step, and jump. So the total of these 3 jumps distances is what you get as your total score for your triple jump. Triple jump is probably one of the most technical discipline in track and field, given there are so many moving parts. If you want to break it down, the triple jump even more, there are 4 distinct phases. The approach is basically with what velocity you approach the takeoff board. In takeoff phase, the athlete aims to project themselves in air by converting some of the horizontal velocity that they have gained in the approach phase into vertical velocity. The greatest gains in vertical velocities were associated with techniques that emphasize a low center of mass, an extended knee joint at touchdown, and the ability to resist knee flexion in the compression phase. So, the compression phase is basically when just before you take off, the center of mass of the body is lowered. And the greatest losses in horizontal velocity were associated with excessive hip adduction and less hip extension and greater increases in height from touchdown to takeoff. Now, once the athlete has left the ground, basically the flight phase, the maximum jump distance has been largely predetermined by takeoff parameters such as height, speed, and projection angle of the center of mass. However, maximum flight distance may not be attained if the flight and landing techniques are poor. The takeoff phase can therefore be viewed as the most critical phase in horizontal jumps, be it long jump or triple jump. Uh, as reported by this study done by Rainey and Williams in 1995, the vertical impact forces on landing can be as high as 12.6 times body weight. When I say 12.6 times body weight, it's a very high number for an average individual. But triple jumpers are, over the years, they get conditioned to it. Such high forces combined with poor technique can be really fatal and therefore lead to injury. So utmost care should be taken before one athlete starts performing triple jump at very high velocities. As mentioned in that paper, most triple jumper they attain horizontal velocity of somewhere between 9 to 10.5 meter per second. They also are able to achieve vertical velocity of 2 to 3 meter per second, while at the same time keeping the contact time between 0.1 to 0.2 seconds. That's basically 1/10 to 1/5 of a second. As reported by these two studies done by Hay in 1986 and 1992, approach speed is the single most important determinant of performance across a wide range of ability level, whether you are a beginner, intermediate, or a professional, or even an elite athlete. Approach speed will play a huge role in the jump distance that you can achieve, both for long jump and triple jump. I'll quickly talk about Arpinder Singh and his achievement. His personal best stands at 17:17, which he achieved in 2014. It was a current national record at that time, which was then eventually beaten by a guy called Ranjit. He is also the current senior national champion. I believe last year if I'm not wrong, I believe he jumped 1684 in the senior national championship. He's also a 2000 Asian gold medalist and a 2014 Commonwealth bronze medalist. And as most of you might know, he's also part of the illustrious Target Olympic Podium Scheme program. So I'll quickly try to touch on the needs analysis we did. So when we sat down with the head coach, the main goal that came across was that Arpinder lacked a bit of approach speed compared to few of the jumpers that we have here. It was pretty evident even to the naked eye. We didn't even need to put the timing gates to realize that he could just gain some sort of approach speed, and that would be influential in his overall result of the triple jump. And based on some of the research done by Dr. Graham Smith and Bryce in 2010, they have reported these numbers of peak force normalized to body weight in an isometric squat at 5.85 with a standard deviation of 0.81. They've also reported the RAT numbers at 150 millisecond in an isometric squats. This number is really huge if you put it in context, 8,852. But then you realize there's the standard deviation of 3,057. That would mean like this number is not achievable every time. The types of muscular contraction that are used during the sport of triple jump are concentric, eccentric, ballistic, and stress shortening cycle. Stress shortening cycle being the key here, because they don't just have to make one jump like long jumps, they have to land twice and then eventually go into the jump phase of the triple jump. This paper also reported the counter movement jump of elite level jumpers, 52 centimeter with a deviation of 7 centimeter. Once we had done the needs analysis, head coach and I decided that we're gonna keep the testing battery to a minimum and but still practical at the same time. So these were the tests that we both agreed on. For strength, we just wanted to see the changes in one rep max of the bench press and squat, squat being the back squat. For power, we decided counter movement jump and one rep max of power clean would be enough. And of course, for speed, we wanted to see how the approach speed of the athlete in consideration would change at takeoff board. So we placed the timing gates 1 meter away for 10 meters of distance. So basically just 1 meter before, and then the next timing gate was 10 meter away from the first timing gate. We wanted to see with what speed the athlete was approaching the takeoff board. We kept this setup consistent throughout the whole 18 weeks of training. We took data as often as we could. Whenever there were jumps that were full runway or more than 14 steps jump, we tried to take some sort of data and find some meaningful insights in that data. And at the end, we were really keen on keeping the body fat percentage in check, because that would affect the absolute relative strength number very quickly, especially for a sport like, especially for everyone in athletics, since they generally operate on very, very low body fat, somewhere between 6 to 8, I would say. So now I'll talk a bit about my constitution that I undertook when I started writing on the program. The main goal that I put out was to increase the relative strength, not just absolute. At no point I was keen on a set rep scheme or a training program which would increase the muscle mass of the athlete, since he was right where you would want a elite athlete to be. His body weight was just about there. So it was never a question of absolute strength. We wanted to improve a relative strength. Secondly, we wanted to increase power. When I say power, power is basically force into velocity. So when I increase the relative strength of an athlete, I for sure know that the force production of the athlete is going up, but that may or may not result in the gain in the velocity part of the force velocity curve. So the goal was to train athlete on both ends, like really heavy, slow movements as well as really fast ballistic movement with light weights, so that eventually the culmination of training would lead to increase in greater power number. Another thing I really wanted to maintain was his muscle mass. Since he when he came in, he was in absolute top shape. Like there was no room for uh, reducing reducing his body fat. His weight was just about there. So another consideration that I had to undertake was just to align the program so that he maintains muscle mass. And lastly, it's imperative in anyone in athletics to have good plyometric ability. That is like the reactive strength. I would also like to mention that most of the reactive strength part was taken care by the technical training done by the head coach. In athletics, it's uh, all the plyometric workout, they come under technical training, whereas in most sport they would need to be trained in weight room through different sort of plyometrics or drop jumps or depth jumps. So in this case, this part was taken care on the track by the technical coach. So this is how a long term training cycle or let's say 50 weeks or 40 or 52 weeks would look like for anyone who I program a training for. But since when Arpinder came and when he wanted to go for a competition, we didn't have enough time to plan a macro cycle as big as this one. So we had to change a lot of stuff based on where he was gonna planning to compete. At the end, head coach decided that at some point during January or February, uh, the athlete would need to go for a training competition or just a competition somewhere abroad to have a first shot at trying to qualify for Olympics, because there's only certain opportunities he will get. Like he will like supposedly he was supposedly getting when the Olympics was previously planned for July 2020, but that all changed now. So we didn't know at that time that we might have such long time. So that was the reason that the whole program got cut down to 18 weeks. We wanted to see how much improvement we can make in 18 weeks and basically go on from there. So the programming rationale, when I was programming, these are all the factors that I put in consideration. I wanted to touch upon all of these qualities within the weight room, except the speed part. The speed part was again done on the track because they had speed workouts and with the technical coach. So the idea here was to serve the entire force velocity curve in a periodized manner, starting from maximal strength, going into strength, speed to power to speed, strength, and speed would be taken care of on the track. We incorporated different variation of Olympic lifts and traditional compound exercises as well. Since the focus was on increasing the speed of the athletes, most of the programming was focused on different Olympic lifting variation that allowed the athlete to express power within limited range of motion in a repeated fashion, but without getting tired. So we wanted to hit a particular power number, or within a week, we wanted to get some sort of power training in every phase of the training cycle. I used GymAware to guide the velocity zone for all the compound and main exercises. so that they stay very, very specific to training phase. So let's say when we were training in maximal strength zone, we kept the weight so that the bar velocity would never go above 0.5. Anything below 0.5, and I knew that the athlete was working uh, in the maximal strength zone. Again, when it went to sense speed, the velocity zone changed from below 0.5 to 0.5 to 0.75, and then similarly for speed strength, that would be somewhere above 1 meter per second. So that was the rationale I used for the key exercises. And gym aware also allowed me to see the what do you say, to see how ready an athlete is for a session. For example, when I did the original testing, I knew for on one particular percentage of his max he was hitting one particular speed. And if I were to ask him to do the same, let's say one rep at 80% of 1 RM, and I know that he's hitting or he's not hitting the speed that he did in testing, so I know for a fact that he's a bit fatigued, and that allowed me to change his training on a very agile basis, if you say. So if I saw the athlete dropping the velocity by more than zero point 0.1, I would consider something around 5% drop in the weights, and that could be done easily at the click in an Excel. So that was what I did for most part. I wouldn't put gym aware every day in every training session, but every now and then I would check what what strength levels the athlete is operating at. So when I finished making the training, it looked something close to this. We started from a couple of weeks of strength and rep, so the athlete could experience some high volume loads, really low intensity, but uh, really high volume load in terms of how many exercise the athletes are doing, or even within the sets, the reps were kind of high. Another thing I would like to mention is that if you see this, the intensity number, this intensity number is percentage of the 10 RM score. So if I know athletes 1 RM score, I can calculate their 10 RM, and then this intensity would be 88% of that particular 10 RM number, not 1 RM number. And that's how we progress from uh, strength endurance to eventually speed strength phase. In strength endurance phase, we kept really low level exercises, just just enough volume so that athlete, when he gets into the next phase, sorry, when he gets into the next phase, he knows that he has accumulated enough loads so that he can push the loads down and then intensity up. So when max strength cycle started, we went to the compound exercises, back squat, bench press, clean pull, just all the exercises where we can generate high amount of forces. It was as simple as that. We kept the periodization the periodization scheme very, very linear. We progress in intensity every week, and then fourth week we drop down the intensity, we drop down the volume. That week would serve as a deload week. Hopefully the athlete will recover, and then we go again. Similarly, when we started moving through different mesocycles of strength power and strength speed, the range of motion of most of the exercises would be cut down, so that athlete could still express power, but he doesn't have to go through entire range of motion. For example, an athlete would never reach a position of a full back squat in his sport, especially triple jumper. But but, that doesn't mean that there would be no back squat in the training program. The full back squat uh, can be used as a base, and on top of that you start building heavier loads with smaller range of motion. In strength power phase, we started added sorry we started adding exercises such as counter movement shrug, power clean. We would do back squat with a down set, push press for some upper body strength or power. When we reach the strength speed phase, you can notice that the range of motion is even less now. We moved from a full squat to half squat. That was within a rack, so the athlete can have confidence of just just pushing through without being aware that like he might fall or anything. We started using mid thigh pull, again a smaller range version of a clean pull. We started adding power snatch for some power based training, and of course hand plow clean. Since we were getting close to we were within last 7 to 8 weeks of let's say whatever the training camp or competition we were going to, we started adding some single leg work as well. Although I believe the athlete like an athlete like triple jumper would give enough 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 work done on single legs during their technical training, but we still chose to add single leg exercises like split jerk. When we went into the last phase of the programming, there was there was only one consideration, that the athletes stay at very high intensity, but the volume load was incredibly reduced. Instead of full back squat, the athletes is now doing a quarter squat, or even uh, squat impulses, which is like half of a quarter squat, jump squat, which were really light, around 20 to 40% of of the 1 RM of back squat. And we started doing more counter movement based exercises. So even for mid thigh clean, we started adding counter movement phase to the exercise, so that we keep working on the stress shortening cycle of 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 the body. And as you might notice, we chopped off the one of the 3 sessions for the last 2 weeks, because this was a time when athlete was getting really close to the competition phase. So I think it was just a logical decision made by me and the coach, because at that point he was doing the, what do you call, the full approach velocity jumps. So we wanted to take off some sort of intensity from within the program. Another thing that I would like to mention here is that you might notice here that there are 18 weeks, but in the title I've mentioned 16 weeks of training. That's because at the end of week 16, the athlete had already left for the training camp. So the testing was done at the end of week 16 and not at the end of week 18. That's why I kept the title as 16 weeks effects. This is what a sample mesocycle would look like for our Tinder. Not necessarily exactly that, but something like that. I'll just zoom on this thing. So these numbers here, they were what I would start any session with. But if I see, or if Arvinder gives me feedback that he feels tired today, I would ask him to reach up to 70 or 80% of one of his lifts, and now I would adjust that based on the velocity decrement or velocity increment of that particular exercise. And just by a quick click, I know all the numbers would change. And that helped me. That basically allowed Arpinder to give me good feedback, and I'm like, he knew that I would act on it every time he would say that he's feeling, I don't know, better or really tired after a session. So I think it was very good that Arpinder trusted that every time he felt something good or bad, that he could come up to me and say, I don't feel like lifting at 100% today. So I just want to let you know, and then I would make changes based on that. So when the 16 weeks finished, just before Arpinder was about to leave for the training camp abroad, these were the tests that we had done pre-training, and this is the post 16 weeks results. These come from a force plate data. Sorry, this data comes from a force plate, which is sampled at 1,000 hertz. Basically, every second that thing is taking 1,000 readings. So as long as this covariation number is less than 5%, I would believe that force plate is giving you really really repeatable numbers. Meaning, the if I were to do the jumps again on force plate, it would be within 2.8 or 0.3% variation within what you did in the last jump. So I would quickly like to mention that this concentric RFD number, you can see the variation here is 85.2. I would take this number 380 with a pinch of salt, because you could clearly tell that Arpinder's RFD abilities weren't very stable back then. He pulled it down to 7.8%, but still, in stats, this would be on the higher end. I would I would like to believe anything below 5 is something that's repeatable. So if I were to ask him do it again, this number might go down to, I don't know, 2,500 or go up to 3,000 also. So I can't say for sure that this is something that's repeatable. Similarly, for concentric time to peak force, you see the coefficient of variation was 27% before, and it went up to 56.9. So you might see that he takes less time now, from 34 to 27. But again, I'm not sure that this number is repeatable in every jump that he would do on force plates. He made some really good progress in, I would say, the jump height. He for someone as experienced and as experienced as Arpinder, 45 was really low. That basically showed that he was still strong when he came in, but that showed that he was not able to utilize his force in a very quick manner. But that changed to 53.6, and as reported by Dr. Graham Smith's paper done in 2010, this number would put him in right alongside elite jumpers. Another thing he made good progress in was in RSI. So RSI is basically reactive strength index. That increased from 0.66 to 0.8, and I think a lot of credit would go to the head coach for this, because most of the work done to increase this number was done on the track in the technical training. His peak power number related to body mass also increased from 55.9 to 63.3. So that means regardless of if he gained or if he didn't gain any mass, he got relatively stronger. He was producing more power for every kilogram of his muscle. I would quickly summarize the results here. So when we did testing, counter movement jump was one of our important assessments for power. So he made almost 19% improvement in that. The approach velocity, which was, I would say, even greater goal, since approach velocity has uh, direct transfer to the sport itself. His approach velocity changed from 9.43 meter per second to 10.1 meter per second. Again, this number puts him in uh, right alongside elite jumpers. In terms of, like, I wasn't that bothered about his back squat or bench press, but he still made minor improvements, 8% and 11% in bench press. So that was something I think he was happy about. I was really happy about. The one thing that I believe uh, led to all the improved results was his increase in power. He didn't just increase his capacity to produce force, he also increased uh, the time. So he also decreased the time he took to produce that force. So he was producing more. So now after the training, he was producing more force, but in less time, and that led to increase in the power number. His power clean, 1 round clean, went from 110 to 122.5. Like I mentioned before, his body fat percentage stayed at extremely athletic level, 6 to 7 throughout the training, before, during, and after. He was in top shape throughout. So these are the things I believe could have been done or done better. I would have liked to incorporate eccentric power development methods, but I would quickly explain why I chose not to include them. So when Arpinder came, he was at a weight where he couldn't increase his body weight, and he was already at 6 to 7 body fat percentage. So there was no way he was going to uh, go in lower body fat percentage without risking his health, or the other option was to increase muscle mass. Because when you incorporate eccentric strength training or eccentric power development methods, the increase in strength also comes along with hypertrophy. And since he was already at a weight which was very good for his sport, any additional weight would have increased his impact forces on landing. So that would imply that he would need even more reactive strength to tolerate those loads. And at that point, I wasn't sure if that's the route I wanted to take, or basically you can say I took the safer option, because I knew, like, when he was going for a competition in early Jan, or in late Jan or early Feb, he still had another 3 to 4 months to have another chance, or another quick training cycle. So I wanted to be really safe with these 16-week period training, and that's why I chose to exclude the eccentric power development methods. Another thing that we were limited by was the time due to Olympic qualification period. Uh, as you all might know, that the whole macro cycle was not able to be completed. We were limited on time. So I would have liked to have up in the train for, I don't know, 50 weeks, but that wasn't to be the case. Third thing I would have liked to done was collecting more training data, and basically trying to do some regression on what approach velocity, or what combination of his hop, step, and jump distance gives him the best chance to jump further overall. I would have liked to take, I don't know, training videos with timing gates every time, but that wasn't to be the case because I was at the same time I was also training, I think, around six other discipline and in three age categories within athletics. So I was limited by time again, I would say. But if given the option, I would love to done that. And future consideration are basically what I couldn't do. We missed out on eccentric power development. I would have loved to done that. I would still I still think that Arpinder's reactive strength capacity is not where it needs to be, I believe that he will benefit more from increasing his reactive strength capacity. Another thing I would love to do was document every jump, almost all the details of every jump that he does above 90 or 95% of his peak speed. Because some of the research paper, they say below 90% the impact forces on landing are half the impact forces done at more than 90 or 95% of peak speed. So this is where above 90 or 95% of peak speed, this is where the tendon loading takes place. Uh, I would quickly reference the articles that I've read or I've referred in programming all this. Thank you, everyone. If there are any questions, I would love to answer them to the best of my ability.
Oh, thank you, Dheeraj, for a wonderful presentation.
Thank
Yes, this is what actually I expected, that so that our coaches and strength and conditioning specialists know how to document a training program, and also the planning part, from periodization to macro meso, that is a meso, and then to the microcycles, and ultimately to the day-to-day training sessions. So I think you have described everything in detail, and also have done a need analysis on the athlete initially, before planning your program. That's one of the most important thing which I find that is missing in many of the schemes which are run by SAI. So probably this would highlight a thing for the coaches, how to plan and prepare the program. Now I open the floor for questions. So if you have any questions, please do put up in the chat box. One thing which I wanted to ask you, I mean, I think till now there has not been much of questions which just come up, but then I just wanted to ask you how you managed to synchronize your training program with that of the coach.
So I had very close contact with the head coaches. Every time there would be any planning cycle, the head coach would let me know like what day, what sort of training he'll be doing. So whether it's going to be intensive session or extensive session, and what's going to be the duration. So I would monitor. I would change my training according to what the head coach was doing. So throughout the period, I knew exactly when Arpinder is going to be fatigued on the track or on that particular day.
There's a question from Harpreet, athletic coach from Calcutta.
Yes.
Please explain about optimum horizontal velocity factor in relation to all three takeoffs. That is,
Sorry.
please explain about optimum horizontal velocity factor in relation to All three takeoffs.
By all three takeoff, does he mean like all three sports? Triple jump, high jump, and long jump?
No, no, no. I think he is mentioning hop, step, and jump.
Okay, so of course the most important uh, the most important phase is the hop phase, or in fact even more the takeoff phase for the hop. There is only a limited amount of vertical velocity you can carry into the hop. If it's too much, you won't be able to generate enough vertical velocity for you to reach a distance. You might reach a very good hop distance that would basically hinder your step distance. So the combination of your reactive strength, your horizontal velocity, your braking impulse capacity, that would basically give you a regression model to know that you are only able to utilize, let's say, 93% of your horizontal velocity to give you a best chance of not just doing a very good hop, but after a very good hop you need to attain the same sort of efficiency in step and jump as well. So a lot of it will depend on the athlete's reactive strength, because when you go, if you convert a lot of horizontal velocity into a lot of vertical velocity, then the impact forces get too high, and at the landing of the hop you will see most of the athletes getting excessive flexion of the knee and hip. That basically doesn't allow you to get a good step distance, because your contact time increases more than 0.220 millisecond.
Okay. There's a question from Ms. Kamlesh Tivana. What was the major contributor for performance increase? Is it ratio of distance or takeoff velocity? Please narrate.
I would believe the approach velocity is the single most important factor, and your ability to uh, efficiently utilize that velocity. Just having a very high velocity wouldn't result in a triple jump, a very good triple jump. Otherwise, every sprinter would just go in triple jump and do three jumps and try to win it. But it would be limited by your reactive strength capacities and your braking compression phase also before takeoff.
There's another question from Chetna Mulchandani. How frequently training readiness was measured using Gym Aware?
I would say definitely once a week. But if I get any feedback from Arpinder saying he's not feeling well, or he's feeling, I don't know, even fresher than last week, then I would just put gym aware 5 minutes before during his warm up sets in any exercise, and that would just let me know whether I need to increase or decrease the velocity.
Yeah, Dheeraj, I think most of the coaches are not aware of Gym Aware. Probably, if you can just explain a little brief on that.
So GymAware is basically a tool. It's a small box like that, and it has a rope attached to it. So you can put it on the bar and just open the app, and it'll tell you how fast you are moving. So when I first initially did my testing, I tested Arpinder from, let's say, 20% of his 1 RM to his actual 1 RM. And I knew at 20% he was moving at 1.23 meter per second, or at 100% of his 1 RM he was getting slower. It might reduce to even 0.23. So I knew for every percentage of his 1 rep max how much velocity he was producing with the bar. And during the whole training cycle, if he ever came to me, I knew the exact velocity for every weight that he was lifting before. So based on that, I could make correction on a very very agile basis.
Great. Okay, there's a question from Vinesh Nag. What protocol do you follow for load monitoring of the athlete on a daily and monthly basis?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question. So I believe in more in feedback than what I prescribe. So every day I would prescribe him some weight, and whether he lifts that weight or he doesn't lift that weight, that depends on his condition. And after every session, I would take his RPE. RPE is basically rate of perceived exertion, how much he felt he exerted in that session. And once I multiplied it by the duration of the session, I would get a score, which I would do it for every single day. And now I know that what score he gave me for last week's session. I know what he lifted for last week. And so let's say last week he lifted, I don't know, 12,000 kilos of weight in a session, and he gave me an RP score of 70 minutes and 8. So if next week if he's increasing the weight, and if he's giving me the same RP, I can say that his body is getting conditioned to the new weight. He's not feeling more exerted. Or if the number goes high for the same weight, then I know that his body probably wasn't in the best condition to take those load, but he took that load. It wasn't a RP 10 out of 10 session. So 10 is when you basically feel I have done a maximal session. I tried to avoid a maximal session wherever I could. I would try to keep the RP levels between 5 and 9, 5 to 6 for a light session. Anything medium would go in 7, 6, and 8 and 9 would be on the heavier side of the training sessions.
Okay, so this question from Damanpreet. What was the reason for using Nordic's exercise in program? Nordic gives more of the eccentric load, which was the part of the program, which you have left. That's what he says.
I prescribe Nordics from the viewpoint of injury prevention, not from the loading. We never increased, like, there was never a linear increase in the load of Nordics. It was same throughout the whole cycle. It was done from the viewpoint of managing the injury risk of hamstrings, because all of you might know that any sort of heavy sprinting or even unloaded or assisted sprinting has a chance of getting the hamstring injured. It's very common amongst the sprinters. So I prescribe it basically from the viewpoint of injury prevention, not from a training or strength point of view.
Great answer. In fact, yeah. Anyway, any other questions? Okay. This is from David Matthew. How could you come to a conclusion that he has improved in testing the variables? He has done the exercise prescribed by you throughout your 16 weeks. So David has asked how could you come to a conclusion that he has improved in the testing variables?
Yeah. So when the coach sat down with me, he basically said that he wanted Arpinder to reach the takeoff board faster. So approach speed was a main goal. Anything else was a secondary goal for us. All the secondary goals were supposed to align for the primary goal, which was approach speed. And he improved it to I think he made an 8 or 9% improvement in that. I believe not all 9% of the improvement is caused by the weightlifting, of course. He's done track training on for 16 weeks as well. And yeah, I think a lot of factors contributed to it, but I would like to believe that some part of that improvement was caused by the weight training, since he has also improved all the and all the variables that I tested in the weight room.
Okay. So this is a question from Subhash Sarkar at SAI Athletic Coach, Calcutta. At the end of the strength training program, you have got the improvement in strength, but have you got the data on actual improvement in 30 meters or 60 meters time?
I'm not sure. I took like I personally didn't take data for 30 or 60 meter, but my like I would say I would like to highlight it again that like improving Arpinder's speed over 30 meters or 60 meters wasn't our primary goal. So I kept my focus on what head coach had asked of me. Basically, he wanted Arpinder to be fast on the takeoff board, regardless of how slow he starts or how much takeoff, sorry, how much steps he takes to that takeoff board. He needs to reach uh, takeoff board with a higher horizontal velocity, and from there onwards, he could work on converting some of the horizontal velocity and vertical velocity as well as his braking impulse. So all that was everything secondary to the approach speed.
Okay. All right. I think it was a great session and very much practical from the point of view for coaches who are actually training the athletes, and also for the strength and conditioning specialist. It was, I think it has helped them in planning, programming, and all those things. Okay. On behalf of Sports Authority of India, I thank Dheeraj for a wonderful session, and I would like to inform you all that is unofficially, I'm just informing, Dheeraj has been selected as one of the lead strength and conditioning specialists for SAI. Only waiting for his appointment letter. So if he'll be joining us soon if the letter is given by SAI by the, within short time, that is how, I don't know when Sai is going to give the letter, but then, yeah, he's likely to join us. So that's a good thing for us. Once again, I thank Dheeraj and all the participants. I hope you have benefited from this session. Yeah, thank you very much. See you all at the second session at 3:45.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the opportunity. I would like to thank everyone else who joined this session. Thank you very much.
Welcome.